Our business by the numbers. First of all, I'll kind of give you a brief summary as to why we started the business. We clearly saw an opening about 3 years ago, athleisure growing like crazy, but it was, we thought, very high price points. I think $108 for a pair of leggings is pretty extreme. For those of you that are in the apparel business, you can imagine what those cost to make. So what we wanted to do is we set out to make product that was as good as the best in the industry at half the price. And we have other businesses under the textile umbrella that we've had success with a flexible membership model. And we felt like this would fit because, at least in my household, my wife owns a lot of leggings and she owns a lot of athleisure wear. And so one of the beauties about this flexible membership model is that our members visit the site, visit their boutique 38 times a year. Now, for those of you who are in traditional brick and mortar, what would you give to know that you're going to have every one of your customers walk in your store 38 times a year? That's incredibly valuable. And I did not get to hear a little bit of the banter this morning on the athleisure wear trend, but my guess is it went something like, is this a fad? Is this a trend? And I think there's a couple things that I would say. It is clearly a very popular trend, and there's a new person getting in it every day, right? A new celebrity or a new retailer that's launching their own line. But I think we're also starting to see those now exit out of it. So VF Corp with Lucy closing those stores, rolling that into North Face. Yoga Schmoga, who had raised maybe $78 million, closing. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that because you can't just make a set of black leggings and put a price on it and expect it to sell. But the reason that I don't feel like it's a trend is the same reason that, I would ask, does anybody see suit and tie coming back in the workplace as the norm for men? Monday through Friday, we're all suit and tie again. I don't see that. And I think the same concept is there. This is comfortable. This is far more comfortable than her wearing denim. And so whether she's working out or just in her everyday life, I think that the comfort but nice comfort trend is here to stay. So as you can see, in 3 years, we've built the business to a $250 million run rate, 1.2 million members, 79% CAGR, and last year we sold over 16 million units, to give you some idea for the size and the scale of business. And as you heard in my intro, I have been, previously to being the disruptor, I was the disrupted. So for those of you who were sitting there and Googled H.H. Gregg, sadly H.H. Gregg filed bankruptcy about a month ago or so, a traditional consumer electronics and appliance business. So 62 years and just the tidal wave of change, was too fast. And I think the lesson, a lot of lessons that I learned, but I think the most important lesson that I took away with me is it is so hard to change when you're having success. When you're making over $100 million in EBITDA, which in the consumer electronics business was pretty decent, you think, what's the worst it can get? Maybe things go down 20%, 25%. It's hard to walk into a board and talk about wanting to radically change your business, right? Cut your store base in half or cut your store size in half or completely change your margin structure because of what you want to do online to acquire customers. And so, that will always stick with me. The second thing that I think that people mistake is that Amazon killed consumer electronics. In our business, it wasn't Amazon at all, because if it was just Amazon, that would have been an impact on margins. What crushed us was Apple, because Apple crushed the traffic. So we used to have hundreds of thousands of customers that came in, digital cameras, camcorders, GPS systems, MP3 players, video game systems, alarm clocks, cordless telephones, MP3 players. I could go on and on and on. And in a very, 10 years ago, right? In a very tight time span, hundreds of thousands of people stopped coming in the door. If you got margin compression, you can add other categories or change your compensation system or work on your cost structure to adapt. But when you are not seeing customers, it's death. And so that's why I mentioned the 38 visits that we have from our members per year. To me, that's what allows me to sleep at night. All right, enough with the fun stuff. So the point of my message, and I'll try to go brief in setting it up and then hopefully give you the interesting stuff as to how we're mining data from this brick and mortar. But data was going to be the panacea. So for many e-commerce pure plays, they were going to have all the data. But with all of this data, why can't we make better decisions? So some of the reasons to me are that the data is biased. Because one, we determine the funnel. Algorithms are constantly adjusting what product they see, what accessories are recommended, what goes to the top of the page, how we filter it, and we're constantly narrowing those choices down to avoid cart leak. The other thing is purchasing decisions online are far more binary. It lacks emotion. So when I'm walking in a store, I see something that I marginally like, a sweater or whatever, yeah, I might grab it and go try it on. Online, I'm looking at if I'm iffy on it, do I really want to go through the hassle of having a chip, packing it up, dropping it off, that type of thing. So I think it's just a little more binary online. Second is the lack of structure and speed. So you have multiple partners that are giving you different data at different times. So just think about a few examples. You got social comments, reseller ratings, Google reviews, Better Business Bureau, you've got your own reviews, you've got returns data, and that's just to name a few. So you got all this data coming at you, but it's not structured, and it comes in at different times. One, because you've got different partners, and depending where you're at in the food chain, you're a high priority if you're Walmart, and you're a middle priority if you're anybody else. And so, you got to get the data feed to them, they got to have their team work on it. You've got multiple deadlines, they've got multiple deadlines, and then you have multiple points of contacts within your organization. So just this lack of structure and speed. Things are constantly changing. So by the time you do aggregate all of that, the business is different, it's changed. This is fast fashion. So to give you an example for us, 70% of our revenue each month is done within the first 5 days. Because we launch new monthly collections each month, and our goal is to sell out within that first week or so. And so to be even 2 or 3 or 4 days into the month to start getting this data, that doesn't work for us. Okay, so point is, more data does not equate to more insights. We've got feedback coming from many different sources that lack structure. Smartphones have changed everything, the speed with which customers can interact with you. And then, the world operates at the speed of a swipe. So we've got these connected groups that can make data difficult to utilize. And if you hang on with me, maybe 2 more slides, we're going to get to the good stuff, but I'm setting up what I think is a little bit of the problem that hopefully many of you can relate to. So you got 3 constituents. You got customers, which they have more feedback points than ever, right? They can hit you up all sorts of different ways. And then, boom, then you've got various partners to collaborate. Think to yourself right now, how many people do you have that touch your website? Do you have somebody that does dynamic FAQs for you? Do you have somebody that does user reviews? Do you use ClickTail? I mean, if you added that up, I've met with a lot of people that the number is well over 10. So you've got various partners that you're in contact with. And then due to the collection methods, retailers struggle to get buy-in across all functions. So my main point here is the cost associated with bringing this data together often exceeds the value of the learnings. So here's a real-world example launching a new fashion collection. Day 1, new collection hits. That first week, you start to get an early read on sales. Then we start to get you get some review on social sentiment. You review Net Promoter Score. You're almost at a month here, and satisfaction. Review return rates and reason codes. Now you start to discover that you may have a sizing miss on the fringe sizes. You're almost 60 days into this. You pull some of the product back for review, determine a solution, and around 90 days, you have that feedback back to your design team to wait another 6 months to change and get something fixed. Like, this is a real life example. So how are we addressing this? And I'm going to go back to this slide. I want you to look at this because I'm going to go back to this and talk to you about how we've fixed this. So how are we addressing this? So better and more contextual data. taking control of the data we can collect from our stores. So when I joined Fabletics, the company is backed by Silicon Valley VCs, and I walked in and said we want to add brick and mortar stores. And after they had thrown everything that was in front of them, they ran back out to get some more stuff that they could throw at me. And finally, I got them to come around to do a 6-store test. And I'll talk to you a little bit about those learnings. So we get feedback from those that don't purchase. We get item level conversion, and we get employee-driven feedback. So when I got there, we patented and developed a product called OmniCart, a technology called OmniCart. So we're completely mobile in our stores. We work on Apple OS devices, so iPads, iPod Touches. And I won't read this to you, but you can see these are the 4 or 5 things that this allows us to do. And I think actually, is that going to play a little video? It's not going to play a little video. Okay. We'll move on. So now we get into the meat. This is the good stuff. So how do we use this? So here's the first example that we use this. So our overall conversion rate. Right now, if you go to the top person in our space, I won't name them by name, but you go to try something on. You walk to the fitting room, and they have a unbelievably amazing technology, right? It's a dry erase board. And they write on there, Debbie, 2 pairs of leggings, right? That data goes nowhere. Nobody's using that. Nobody's doing anything. So we go in, we scan the fitting room, and we scan the items. So this allows us to understand both take rate to the fitting room, but also conversion rate by SKU, but also if they're a customer, we can understand everything about them and their past. So in this example, we've got our #1 bestseller overall had an 81% conversion rate. As we get into it and we start to look at this fitting room data, again, this isn't day 60. This is day 1 when this product hits the floor. So you can see our typical conversion rate, 81%, but look at extra small and look at extra, extra small, right? So radar's going off day 1. Radar's probably going off hour 3, hour 4 that we have an issue here. And so what we identified, quickly dig into this, what we identified is that our size grading in the extra small and extra, extra small, we hadn't tapered it down enough in the calf. It was a design flaw. And so we could immediately pull those back or update our site. So in this case, we pulled that out of the stores and off the site. And if you think about that, what that saved us in returns alone, but also what that saved us in customer satisfaction. So I don't think it's a coincidence that our Net Promoter Score has gone up every single month since we started using OmniCart.